gearing up for Game 2. Welcome back to the LEC Winter Split. My name is Quickshot. I quickly want to run you through some of the stakes at hand with our fancy new tool when we look ahead to XL versus Team Heretics. Now, very quickly, if you're looking at this, the first game of the day, Astralis versus SK, has already been locked in and factored into our standings. If you take a look at the win-loss records and specifically these percentage, this tells you the percentage of remaining scenarios in which a team will lock in the top 8. If Team Heretics win this game, not only will their percentage jump to 100%, meaning they lock top 8, they will also lock in G2 Esports, as well as Mad Lions and BDS. Let's uncheck that one for now. So crucial, if you're a fan of any of those teams, Heretics can lock in a whole bunch. Now, what I want to focus on is XL Esports, who right now are sitting with a 1-5 record with a 13% of remaining scenarios to make into the group stage. If they lose this game, that drops to 0.4%. And just for example, if they lose tomorrow to SK, what this means is there's no way that they can lock in a top 8 without a potential tiebreaker scenario. Lose today, lose tomorrow, only 0.8% of those scenarios allow them to do that. I would like to highlight just a few other examples, though, where if we take a look at, say, BDS winning the game, keep your eyes here on XL's chances to lock in. It starts dropping. If Fnatic win, all of a sudden the chances drop as well. But they do still have many scenarios in which a tiebreaker game is possible. It's one of the first true experiences where literally every single game counts. We'll keep using this tool, keep showing you how it impacts all the different teams. But for now, hopefully there's not too many numbers. We're going to head over to Laure and the rest of the analysts.
Thank you for all the info, Quickshot. So it's not all doomed for Astralis, XL yet. But they need to win this one. And I'm not talking about the standings only, but only to prove that something got better over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, are we actually talking to me? Do you just want to move on to your...
Yeah, when do we get on to my guy? When do we get on to the guy on Heretics?
Yeah.
Because we can get onto that in a bit, but of course with XL, so many things that they have to address first. There's a lot going on there under the covers in terms of like what's happening with the jungle, what's happening with support. They don't really have a lot of building blocks to work with right now.
We'll get back to them a bit later, but as you said, focus on your man in the top lane on the side of Heretics.
So hard.
Is this guy gonna get away with playing Cassante for the 7th game in the LEC this year, Nymaera?
I'm not going to speak, Nymaera. Just do your thing.
Awesome. So I've covered this guy for an awful long time. This guy has got so many achievements over in the LGL. And one of the most dangerous things this guy can do is make you think he has a small champion because he doesn't. Actually, this reminds me of a very similar period of time. Spring 2020 LGL set had just been released, and he was playing that whenever it was available. And he was doing very similar things to the Cassante, where he'd blind pick it, he knew he'd have a good matchup. Reminds me actually in terms of more recent things. If you remember how Vitality played with Alphari last year, just picking Gnar and saying, you know what? We know how this matchup goes. We know we're going to get value out of it. And when Evie's been playing something like Cassante, he does do that. But he can do that on so many different champions at this point. Look out for his Gnar, look out for his Renekton, look out for his Set. Urgot, of course, he's played that a lot internationally. Tryndamere as well.
Tryndamere,
he just does it all, honestly. But he's not had to show that because his team just drafts around having a safe blind pick for him.
Yeah, we'll see what they have cooked for today's draft. Thank you, Nymaera, on the LGL enlightenment here. But let's talk about XL here for a bit, because as Quickshot explained earlier, they're in a really, really difficult situation. And as I was opening, I'm really looking forward into seeing if there's some improvements from week 2 to week 3. When you look at XL and what has been working right now, Odo is not falling too far behind. But that's pretty much it.
It's such a tough team right now.
Yeah.
Because we all know and have seen each individual from this roster work before, but now we've put them in together and it just feels like nothing is working, right? We've seen the fact that Odo's not falling too far behind. We saw them play towards that, but then it's also a very bot lane meta right now. So 2v2, bot lane's falling apart as well. Vetheo's not been looking too hot in the mid lane either. Got first blooded as well, you know, by Astralis last time they played against each other. So it's not been looking too hot for this team at all. I think it lacks identity. It's a team that's disjointed right now. And I think Xerxe as well, if he just picked a lane to play around when we just said, this is what we do, maybe it'd be easier to play. But I mean, obviously, there's no real answer to fixing what there currently is of issues.
So what you're currently hearing is an awful lot of waffling because we don't know what to do with this team. We expected so much from them. And all of these pieces, they seem to be pulling in different directions, right? I mean, we talked about those lanes. Odoamne just about even, but these other lanes almost untenable when you have that kind of loss. You already talked about that bot lane. And for me, the other part of that bot lane being Targamas, we know how good this guy can be when he's allowed to be creative, when he's allowed to have something like Pyke, but even he's been feeling very constrained and very uncomfortable.
And that's what I'm saying. When I think of Targamas, peak Targamas, I think Targamas who can have roaming champions, who can impact the rest of the map, leaving Patrik maybe alone for a bit. But is it something you can do with the state of the game right now?
I think it's really difficult. But listen, I am really passionate about bot lane. And I for
tell
one,
more,
love playing Ashe right now because she's the most broken champion in the game. But the fact of the bot lane is right now that it's pretty much determined on the first 3 waves. It's pretty much determined by these range supports we currently have, and the items that currently facilitates them as well, and the kind of difference you get between economy, between a range support and a melee support as well. And as you said, usually Targamas is the kind of guy that wants to be on the Pyke. Usually he's the kind of guy that likes the melee support and wants to roam out of the map. Even in the 2v2 scenario, when he played the Nautilus and they had it paired up with the Draven, it fell through as well. So I think it's a stylistic of meta right now. It's the fact that they're not really sure what they want to play. And even the fact that he was known for Senna, he was also roaming around with his jungler on the Senna farming jungle camps. It was never really too much about that 2v2 either. So it's hard to just pinpoint one, but like many things to talk about.
You have to get to like this point today though, and I think actually looking at who they're facing, we've seen some inconsistencies from the Heretics bot lane as well. I think there is some kind of things around that in terms of if you're going to have a confidence game, if you're going to flip the script, we know Targamas plays absolutely everything. You mentioned an awful lot of champions there. If you were watching last summer, you saw plenty of boxes up on there on like 13 different champions from Targamas played. I just want to see some confidence. I want to see some comfort because it's got to start from somewhere. And I think that's the point of weakness you can target.
But that's the issue I have right now. Looking at an opponent as Heretics who have messy games, can get away with this messy game, but I think Xerxe has difficulties in any situation so far. They lost against Astralis last week. Astralis just picked up a second win here. How can the confidence level of Xerxe be enough coming into this matchup?
Fact of reality between both of these two teams right now is that their early games are incredibly messy. It takes them a long time before they really found their stride. Even Heretics as a team usually finds their comebacks wins in the mid to late game. Now, I still think Heretics obviously coming in as a favorite in today's matchup as well, from pretty much every single parameter as well. Ruby's been playing fantastic. Jankos is still doing his thing. But if you are Xerxe and you were to find a leeway into this game, you would have to attack the early game. You know, that's where Heretics have been the weakest so far, and if you can find that comfort as you're talking about as well,
just
either through a 2v2 or Odoamne for a solo kill on top lane, that's a start. That's a beginning, right? And you need that now more than ever.
A couple words maybe, Nymaera, on what we should look at for drafts here on the side of Xerxe, but also priorities for Heretics.
It's like, well, here's one I made earlier. Talked about Targamas and his comfort, something different. I think that's very important. I think that you're looking at probably Odo, and look, we've talked an awful lot about Ebi's Cassante. I think we're probably going to see it again. I think you just have to accept that you can't take away everything in the draft. Add some volatility in the bot side. We know that Odo is happy to play stuff like Renekton, play stuff like Gnar himself. Expect that kind of matchup in the top, so it's kind of like fighter bruiser for fighter bruiser. Just try and get some kind of weakness and volatility early in that bot side, and kind of tagging on to what JB said, that hopefully it gives you some kind of blowout advantage in the bot lane early on, which has been a defining part of the meta. Maybe something like an Elise can help with that too for Xerxe, who's also been struggling to get involved in the game. Anything which affects bot lane early, that's immediately what my mind goes for.
Yeah, and as Trev already said earlier as well, if you're chained for Heretics, that victory can lock in so many teams as well. And for the survivability of Xerxe, they've already felt the pressure throughout the entire tournament so far, which has only lasted 3 weeks. There we go with a thumbs up as well from Ebi. But the pressure is on now, and it quite generally, we say it all the time, every game counts, and it's almost now or never from the side of Xerxe. They need to get the ball rolling now.
Check that one off the bingo.
And we'll see if they can do it. As we said, it's do or die almost for Xerxe now after these 3 weeks. And as we said, the format is not forgiving enough. You can't be allowed to have a couple slip-ups, and they banned the Cassante. On blue side, for me, that is a surprise. That's not the kind of ban you want to see on blue side.
Exactly, because on blue side, you're looking to be first picking one of these champions, and there are an awful lot of first pick priorities, but having that real solid rock in the top side has been a hallmark of the meta, and we're finally going to get to see another Ebi champion. It was something that everyone in Heretics was really tweeting about. You saw Seal, Ebi, and Peter Dunn saying, oh, we're going to play this again. Whereas Heretics, they've got an awful lot of these first picks, the Maokai and the Ashe being taken away very early. Those are seen as the premier blind picks in the meta.
Yeah, and I really wondered in the beginning if they were just trying to overload the draft, leave open any comfort for the bot lane instead, but also seeing them ban away a lot of these AD carries themselves does leave less leeway for the bot lane, but with Maokai banned away and Sejuani not looking to be the priority, so I'd say just going to go straight from that Elise. And we talked about how we wanted more influence from his specifically. You need to do that very early into the game with a pick like Elise.
Yeah, and Elise has kind of changed her identity away from like the level 3 top lane dive champion we saw in earlier seasons.
It's all about bot lane.
It's all about bot lane. I mean,
here it is again.
Elise can go anywhere. I have waited so long to see that officially. This guy, man.
First pick Elise here on the side of Excel and immediately answered by a Draven.
Yes, I really like this. If you're not familiar, well, obviously we've talked a lot about Jackspektra, but the fact is he used to be just a Draven one-trick pony before he really made his mark.
So many games of it in the last finals of EU Masters, which he won. You know, this guy is his signature pick too.
And that goes back to the fact that we were talking about bot lane. Draven is one of these picks that rarely ever loses on the first wave. So the fact that you can try and take charge of that, potentially get a counter pick on 3 here instead or save it for later, is really solid for Jackspektra and Mersa in terms of taking charge. And as the second pick for Jankos, we do get the Sejuani now that Elise has been taken away.
Okay, so Sejuani becomes more and more dangerous as the game goes on, especially when you start getting around that first Herald fight of the game. Sejuani ultimate kind of comes on board. And
I like this champion because I think it can be flexed either mid or top lane.
It can be. We've seen a couple of players, well, we've seen Humanoid play it in the LEC.
Yeah.
We saw UCal play it over in the LPL. It's kind of making a bit of a resurgence. You can see it into a lot of your melee laners topside. Maybe it's trying to predict that Ebby is going to pick something like a Renekton or a Gnar, which Jayce has typically done pretty okay into. But you've already got some melee synergies you need to be worried about that can shut down Jayce early.
Yeah, so right now you need more range as well. I'm looking at Ruby now, thinking about his champion pool. We've seen him prefer the Asia so many times as well. There's no need for you to kind of go for the last pick on the support just yet. You have the red side leeway. But with the Jayce already locked in, they're kind of calling, well, we don't think it's going to be flexed. We think this is just going to be towards the top side. So we're just going to put in the Jacks now. We can ban out mid laners and supports and just keep the counter picks for ourselves on red side.
So worth noting, Ebby has never been a huge Jax player, even when it has been meta for various points in time. Of course, Ebby's played since 2014, so he's been around for an awful long time to do that. Actually, Ebby and Jankos are the oldest jungle top duo in the world in terms of any competitive scene. So you can, even over the course of that very long career, Ebby's not really gone towards that pick. However, he's been playing an awful lot on stream. He's been playing an awful lot in scrims as well, bringing it up against potentially flex Jayce, but banning away some things that could go into the top side if the Jayce is flex mid.
I'll be honest, I actually thought that there is kind of no way that the Jayce was going into the mid lane. And the reason why I thought that in that instance is because usually we see Vetheo be so happy about his comfort picks. So seeing you suddenly go for more new picks like the Jayce mid as well could be really interesting to see. We did actually see him pick up Twisted Fate not too long ago, which was his first ever career pick. So maybe he is trying to evolve that champion pool a little bit. But you can see from Heretics side, they continue to ban out the top laners. So they actually think that the Jayce is going into the mid lane.
Or rather, it's just solidifying it's going top. It's like, look, you think you have flex potential here, but if we ban things you want to really put into the top lane, if the Jayce was going to go mid to get a better matchup into that Jax, you're not going to have that same ability to do so. This does mean you're not going to get a lot of support bans. You could have potentially banned 2 supports and then gone for a third pick on 4 to try and get a much better bot lane. I actually wonder now if you save... I actually wonder if you save support counter pick for last, given the importance of bot lane that we've been talking about.
I think when you see Elise on enemy team and you know the fact that it's going to be a very bot lane-centric early game here, you want to give your bot lane as much power as possible. So I think saving that support counter pick on R5 would be the best thing, and maybe look for Syndra or Orianna in the mid lane. Just go with something that's super standard with a control mage that's not too difficult to blind pick, and yeah, there we have it.
And I guess when you have Victor and Azir ban, Orianna is the best next thing we have here. What do you answer with on the side of Excel with the 2 picks you have?
Well, it really is a question of, do you have any top laners left you want to take into the Jax? If you don't want the Jayce there, is Odo comfortable taking it into that matchup? And then, of course, you've got to look at whatever you're picking into the Draven as well. You can go for a bit of early lane shove and just try and look to lockdown laning phase, go for something like a Karma.
Yeah.
The question is, are you looking for that lane shove there, or are you actually looking to kill as well? Varus obviously has a lot of burst early.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're going to blind pick one of the melee engages, there's usually always a good counter to it on the opposite side. Even if you were to lock in Leon, and Mersa is the kind of guy that wouldn't actually mind blind picking, or not blind picking, counter picking with the Thresh as well. I think Karma is the safest blind you can do here. You can take wave control. It's decent into Draven. Even if they go for a lockdown CC composition with a support themselves over there, it's super safe. Blinding the Braum kind of says that you are anticipating that they're going to go for an engaged support as well themselves. But if you were to go for a range support now yourself, you would stack your support item so infinitely well and better down towards the bot lane.
Now that's interesting.
That's the early game though. The thing which I'm really worried about now for Heretics is that you need to get a side lane advantage. You're going into these 5v5s, you have an immobile mid, you've got an immobile AD carry into an Ornn. We saw T1 lose a game with Draven earlier in the week. And I think this means that Heretics need to be looking for something a little bit out of left field. You've got to look for something like a Rakan that can roam early, that can get kills in lane potentially as well. Because in the team fights, when you get through to those 5v5s, you're outranged by the Jayce and the Varus, you're outranged by the Ornn ult, and you have 2 immobile carries. Actually, for me, this comes down to side lane matchups and whether Mersa can help snowball the map to that point.
It's going to be really interesting. I did just get confirmation that this is Vetheo's career first Jayce game as well.
It is.
So he's busting out a few of these in the game so far and in the season so far, actually. And I'm really curious to see how these two compositions are going to function because it seems like a composition that was more like last year rather than now due to all the range supports that we're currently getting. But yes, Rakan usually super comfortable into Braum. Rakan has a hard time when he gets locked down and he can play very freely into the Braum. And it goes to your point as well, Alex, where it's about roaming on the rest of the map. I'm curious to see how much influence Xerxe is going to have. I think he's going to be super pivotal for XL. If you can get your top side going, and specifically Vetheo as well, it's going to be super solid to actually snowball those leads to the rest of the map. So we talked about it XL. If you can find one point of attack, maybe you can send that into the rest of the map.
And we'll be looking forward to seeing if it's finally the day XL can bounce back or if Team Heretics can lock themselves alongside other teams into the first group stage of this new format in the LEC. But it's time for us to get onto the Rift.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else to Summoners Rift for Game 2 of Week 3 of the LEC Winter Split. I'm Quickshot, joined by Dagda. Just before we dive into the game, quick reminder that this is Vetheo's first ever Jayce. We saw last week his first ever Twisted Fate, and for XL, a difficult situation to be in. We're looking at them to make the changes because this is the team that hasn't lived up to expectations. Before we get to that, what do you make of the draft, Dagda, as we see the team's kind of just faffing about in the river?
Well, it's actually funny because this draft, I feel like, plays into what we're probably going to talk about with XL, is that the early game hasn't been as strong. This is, to me, for XL, where you want to try and have push in bot, push in mid, and then try and use the fact that you've just got vision, which I really like for them, to have Xerxe invade off the mid and bot lane pressure and try and just get in the face of Jankos, punish the fact that Sejuani doesn't really have that early skirmishing power, especially without the melee mid lane, but at least Rakan's now melee, so kind of helps out a little bit.
It does just a little bit. I think really good call out there, specifically on the vision. I think specifically on Xerxe, that was a first pick Elise, right? Of all the potential champions available, we went unpicked and unbanned for the cat, for Yuumi. So that was a shock to me as well. But I think Xerxe is the man that I want to see find more of influence. I think he's been one of the quieter players in terms of XL. Now, frankly, the whole team has been struggling, but on a champion like Elise, it is integral to use that kit to your advantage.
It does feel like we're starting to get Xerxe like week on week trying to step up that pressure though. Week 1, he was basically a no-show. Week 2, we started to see him a little bit more proactive. On Elise, you have to be proactive. You have to make sure that you're getting involved or at least finding early plays. And although we traditionally think of Elise playing towards the lanes, I actually think in this scenario, playing with the lanes for invades is more than likely what we'll see for XL.
Of course, when you think of the fact that Jayce, the Varus, the ability to push and how powerful it is, Vetheo will use that accelerated shock blast to chunk out Ruby, use the dissonance and command attack of his own. No surprise yet that Draven pushing this wave forward, and Xerxe could step forward, but he's going to have to cross this ward, so information will be gained by Team Heretics, and they're starting to back out for now.
Yeah, even just showing on the on the ward here is fine. You just want to see if you can get pushed for bot, but Jankos.
Oh, the engage comes out. Odo tries to buffer it. Flash used by Jankos. The stun lands, and Odo's been able to put enough distance away as he fancies himself a chance with that Bellows Breath. Not this time around, only level 2 as well, so not going to be able to turn it around. But Summer Spell blown means Evie has a small advantage. And here comes the Cocoon! Not going to find its target. Xerxe takes a number of shots, repels up, drops down, and forced to back away, but gets the flash from Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, nice job to get the flash from Ruby. Definitely something you can look at to go again, and this is kind of what we're talking about, right? Xerxe actually using the fact you got these pushing lanes to make things happen, but...
Oh, down to 100 each. Bellows Breath is out, into the minion wave. Heavy's trying to use those consumables as best he can, but they are fighting on a knife's edge, Dagda.
Yeah, I mean, Evie still had the flash, so we knew he'd be okay if he went a little bit too ham, but not quite able to get the finishing blow there. Will be able to get that push in top side, though.
Predict it. Who gets first blood there? If I recall correctly, Odo's had 5 isolated deaths already. Might be going up more. Mersa will get that knockout, that jump right backwards. Stand behind me is the call, and now here comes Xerxe. Still has the flash, he's in the spider form. Can look for that venomous bite. Repels up, flash away from. Cocoon lands. Noxious poison and not enough burn. Heavy escapes with his life, and now the war boar is on the path.
I mean, both junglers are just trying to play to opposite sides every single time, but I love that Jankos is trying to make these aggressive plays, especially as the wave pushes in, but it's a very small wave right now. Cannon wave pushing into as well. It's going to take a while before he can actually look for the play here.
2 flashes, cleanse and exhaust available to Patrik and Targamas. They've got the cleanse and the ignite on the side of Heretics. And Odo's backing away. Odo could teleport in if needed. That's a 2-man knock-up, stand aside. Mersa takes a couple tower shots and first blood secured by Jackspektra. Now Targamas is the next target. Jankos steps forward, 1 auto, the second, the third, the fourth. It's a double kill for Jackspektra and a flawless dive for Heretics.
And a 2-0 Draven off the back of that as well. So well executed by Heretics, and especially when we've been looking at this bot side for Heretics, has not been looking good for so long. To have them with a 1.3k gold lead already is only going to spell good things for Heretics.
Man, this dive was great. I'm going to zoom out and just look a little bit at how the 3 of them coordinate the tower damage, because it was very calculated and clean.
Yeah, I mean, Mersa immediately ignites, so he makes sure that he's the one that actually ends up tanking this. And it's a little bit unfortunate for Patrik, trying to see if he could play behind the Braum shield to make sure he didn't go down. But again, then, Jankos, just an auto attack. They all wait until that happens, follow up with the CC perfectly, and they're able to walk away from this really well orchestrated dive by Heretics.
Very, very nicely done. And one of the only things that XL have been able to pull off throughout the course of their 6 games is picking up first blood in half of the games. When you look first tower 1 in 6 on average, XL have been down 1.8k gold at 14 minutes, and they're 1,000 gold down already. The early game for XL, especially around objectives, well, frankly, around most manners of the game, has been a struggle, and this is a awful situation to be in against a Draven, no less.
Yeah, and I think especially this is kind of highlighting the problems that we're seeing with the bot lane for XL, right? Where they're not really respecting dives that can come in, especially when Xerxe is on the opposite side of the map. They're trying to play overly aggressive. Like, this is just not working out at all for XL, and now once more they find themselves very far behind. Jackspektra immediately trying to go for that Bloodthirster to make sure he can punish the lane as hard as possible down here.
I mean, look at the damage difference. 2 long swords, as well as the Doran's into a BF Sword Vamp Scepter. It is a gigantic difference before you add the steroid of the Q.
And it's also the fact that they're actually seeing not a Poke Varus. I assumed that XL were going to play this Poke composition with, you know, the Manamune, both on Vetheo and Patrik, but instead we are getting this on hit, which honestly I think is the worst decision you can make. You're short range on the Varus. You want to just be able to play from range because you don't have a huge amount of engage tools on Heretics apart from Mersa and like Jankos, but that's why you have Odo and Targamas there to try and provide peel. It just seems like again XL aren't on the same page with how they want to play this game.
Now the question is then, like, how do they use this to their advantage? I mean, down 1,500 gold already. That 16 CS advantage in the bottom lane in favor of Jackspektra. He's got himself 48 stacks on the passive. It feels like every time we take a look at the top lane, Ebby is looking for the trades, traded back and forth, throws down the ult of his own, and Odo will use that Bellows Breath. Small advantage for Odo in terms of the CS, but it's Ebby that's kind of pushing and controlling, and as expected in that middle lane, Vetheo has been able to push all the way into Vetheo, and that's a big call. My Cocoon is all of a sudden going to land. Ruby's getting burnt. Shockwave onto 3, but there's not enough damage to follow it up. Vetheo will get out of damage range as Xerxe will rappel up and drop back down. First kill for XL.
Good answer from XL there. I like that they're trying to play around Vetheo here. Vetheo has been getting so little resources. It's actually been insane on XL to finally see him thriving with it, but has to be careful. Jankos is here. This is where we might get to see Vetheo pop off. This is the game where XL want to give him these resources.
He needs to land that poke. He needs to make use of Jayce's kit, his first game on it. Gigantic minion wave in the bottom lane. Vetheo is making his way forward. That unbreakable wall is up. Now it's timed out. Piercing Arrow flies forward. Jackspektra's got Whirling Death available to him in the exhaust. Insta-cleanse! The Death whirls forward as Jackspektra gets a third. Continues to step backwards. Spinning axe after spinning axe. And he should be taken out here by Vetheo. The minions finally do it. And the shutdown gold to boot.
And this is the video that I've been missing, where he's able to get pressure in mid, roam down to his bot side to help out. This is what was so crucial on Misfits to helping out people like Neon in this bot side. But now we're finally getting to see with Vetheo getting a little bit of help. He's able to get down to that bot lane once more. Heretics, though, will answer with this play onto top side to make sure that they're able to at least cross-map to a certain extent.
Oh man, it makes this game very, very intriguing. It's still a 1,000 gold advantage to Team Heretics. And of course, on the roam, we're actually going to start here on Ruby being ganked just from Fog of War. Beautiful cocoon coming out there from Xerxe.
And great timing. I mean, it was just as Ruby's walking back to lane as well. So not only does he have the kill going across, he also loses out on a lot of minion waves. But just Vetheo very quickly clearing out mid. And then this dive, I like the idea, right? Set up for the play, burn the shield, and then you can go into it, especially as Jackspektra just hits level 6. Mersa is very close to it. They just don't account for the fact that Vetheo is missing in mid lane.
And also, can we give some kudos here to the observers? Smurfing on this one, showing the whole path. And some kudos, I think, to Nymaera. He was talking explicitly around Targamas on the pre-match and during the draft. Want to see more from Targamas, want to see him impacting the lane. That was a roam from mid, where he helped take down Ruby, catching that wave in the bottom lane and buying enough time for then Vetheo to back him up. So that allows XL to stay 2 kills to 3. XL have been bullied off of this dragon, and it looks like Team Heretics are in a better position. It's down to 3,000. We fancy ourselves a fight here, Dagda.
Yeah, I mean, look at Jackspektra. This is the guy that has to carry Bloodthirst to complete it. He's the first one with an item, but XL just looking for poke.
Where's the engage? Mersa, quickness available to him, can hop over the wall. XL are grouped up, they're holding on to the trigger instead. Team Heretics will secure that one. He's looking for a now potential fight. Chain of corruption starts to spread. The quickness will slow down and Jackspektra forced to flash away. Unbreakable has now timed and Whirling Death burns down the HP bars as Jankos is focusing the spider. Jackspektra gets another, this time onto Xerxe. They get the dragon and they get the kill.
I don't know in what world you want to fight Jackspektra right now, especially when Vetheo had already moved back towards the mid lane. He was just trying to play for his own lane state. We'll get the shockwave in response, but that's going to be fine. I mean, I don't know. That was just bizarre call from XL.
I really like the call out. Into the Bloodthirster without the member that's kind of fed. 1,000 gold advantage for Vetheo. You can see it on your screens right now. Ultimately, I think maybe fancying what they could get on a surprise. Accelerated shot blast, bring the hammer down! The Mercurial hammer, and Vetheo finds the solo kill.
And this was all you had to let Vetheo do. Vetheo is huge right now. Let him do his thing in the mid lane. Play through him like you have been, but instead now more kills have gone across to Jackspektra, and you're just making Vetheo's job so much more difficult in this mid lane.
Now, can Vetheo use the poke on this Jayce to actually claw back the 2,500 gold advantage that Jackspektra's built up? Jankos is going to try to generate an additional lead. Odo's got his ult, he's got his flash. Abby has also a level down. I don't really fancy how much kill pressure they have here into an Ornn, which is quite difficult. But at least they're going to keep pressuring, and Jankos being very, very active. Abby's going to get a lot of damage back, allow his breath, and finally stepping away.
And this is where I like the idea from Jankos, because he's trying to go, all right, Abby, if we can get you into a lead, we can play this 1-4, and we're going to be all good. One of the big problems with Patrik going for the on-hit build means that he needs some sort of engage, needs a front line to enable him, but we don't have that if Odo has to deal with the side lane for Abby.
All right, for Odo, if he's able to be in position, use that Call of the Forge Guard. That'll buy time, both for Vetheo and Patrik, to use the range, get some of that additional CC down. Right now, there's pressure in this top lane. Once again, Call the Forge Guard. He's going to need to flash away. He's only going to use that Leap Strike for now. Flashes the Cocoon. At least that is the Summer Spell blown. While that's happening, keep your eyes on the minimap. Both teams have been pretty active. I think, Dagda, it's fair to say that both teams have been trying to make the cross maps happen, and again, setting up for the dive. This time, Targamas and Patrik, they're respecting it.
Yeah, but look, Ruby's on his way. You've got Vetheo as well. This is going to turn into a much bigger fight.
Glacial Prison instantly cleansed away with the knockout and the quickness. Patrik is just about to drop, but the Unbreakable is buying enough time. Finally, Jackspektra gets the kill. The shield is brought from that Bloodthirster, continues step forward, the spinning axes. Here comes Odo with the backup of Vetheo. Mersa's down as a double for Vetheo. The tower may be secured with the help of the Rift Herald, though, and I think net advantage Team Heretics. The thing is, this Jayce is getting fed 4-0-1.
Yeah, put 5 kills onto the Draven, and as well, Ebby should be able to get some plates in this top side as well when he pushes this wave in. So although XL do respond well, Looks like Heretics should be able to come out with a bit more. Actually going to see Ebby just back away instead, not wanting to get a play for himself, which I think he probably could, but without the TP, being able to get back to that top side might be hard.
There's a shockwave here for Ruby. I think he spotted Xerxe. A couple pings went down. Great vision toggle there, waiting to see that he find his target. Repel forward. Venomous bite into the shockwave. At least forces Ruby back, but he holds on to that flash. And I think, don't disregard the fact that Heretics still have a 2,000 gold lead. And this was at least one of the turnarounds. Great teleport. And look, Vetheo's already moving. He'll be the first mid laner to arrive.
Yeah, it's not only the fact that Vetheo has the quicker run, right, because they're fighting back onto XL's side. It's also the TP from Odoamne coming in just the right time. He just pushed that wave into top side. And then a great knock up here. Jackspektra tried his best to get as much damage as he could off, but just not enough when he's got 4 members of XL in position there.
Of course, as we come out of this replay, see if there's going to be any potential fight setup. 40 seconds until the next Herald. Dagda, I'm going to take a quick second just to highlight an interesting tidbit around Team Heretics. When we look at their games, they're 3-3. They spend 5% of their game time with a major lead. That's the worst in the league. When it comes to a major deficit, 40% of their game time means they're a major deficit. They're more than 48% of the gold, less than their opponents. And then 56% of the game time is close. It's interesting to see how this team is kind of finding their feet this winter split.
And I think a huge amount of what these stats kind of lead up to is how Heretics have been winning their games, which is trying to keep it close, having Ruby on these late game scaling mages like the Azir, the Cassiopeia, the Orianna in this one, and they want to find those late fights. Maybe the mid fights, though, are going to be more important here with Jackspektra being as large as he is.
I mean, using Jankos' experience to look for those team fights, look for those skirmishes. Right now, 0-0-4 for Jankos, involved in 4 out of the team's 5 kills. Was waiting in the wings, the Rift Herald popped. XL will instead prioritize the Dragon, which is spawning in a few seconds' time. So Heretics will get that small advantage. Heretics also got the first Dragon, so they can concede the second one without too much concern.
But the thing is, you can see Odo has to completely abandon this top side. He knows that you're going to get Jackspektra and Jankos moving up towards this top side. So Ebby can now get this tower, you hold on to Rift Herald for the mid play, and you send Ebby off to this bot side to push that in and then try and get more. But actually, looks like they're going to try and contest for the tier 2 instead, which I'm kind of surprised at, to be honest.
Well, they dropped the Herald down. Going to be playing on the Hex Gates, Hextech Rift rather. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep track of just in terms of positioning, how they can get behind. I think specifically for like Xerxe or Odo, being able to jump in behind, use those engage tools is powerful. Teleport's not available for Ebby, and Shelly will at least get that move.
Yeah, I mean, they do get the charge, but that was very dangerous. I mean, Ebby had reset, Ruby was pushing mid. I thought they were just basically going to use the Herald as a distraction, try and rotate in towards the mid lane, but that was nearly all 5 members of XL coming, and when you have Odo with that big ultimate as well, that ease of engage is definitely there. So Heretics need to be a little bit careful, but just about get away before XL manages it.
Help me understand, 15, 16 minutes into the game, with a 3,000 gold lead, and obviously the tools that XL have around team fighting and poke, like, how significant is this advantage that Heretics have built up, or like how close is the game when we look at the composition?
I mean, I think for XL, the thing was, I was kind of thinking we're going to get that poke Varus. I think we're seeing how far behind Patrik has fallen now, and it's on hit. He's just not really going to be relevant until he gets the 3 items, which is going to be very delayed. So Heretics can kind of just keep playing for these team fights. Ruby's going to come online as soon as he finishes his Seraph's Embrace as well, and that's where off these 2 items, with also Jackspektra being huge, they should be able to try and play through it. Maybe Vetheo can land some big shock blasts, but it's just, I don't know if it's going to be enough in this situation.
I mean, it's really important. Excuse the crudeness of this, but please look at the itemization. That shield bow was just picked up, and a second ago, 0-3-3. The shield bow versus the Bloodthirster and the Kraken Slayer, 4,000 gold the difference. Yes, we do see Vetheo is at least a full item ahead of Ruby for now, with that Man Immune complete as well as Eclipse. But it does mean that if you do not contain Jackspektra, the damage mismatch is gigantic. Thing is, we're 3 minutes away from Dragon. There's a couple towers taken down from Heretics, so it becomes a little bit more difficult to take down, especially that mid tower, with the wave play that Vetheo is available to him.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where Vetheo has to have his work coming out from. Same with Odoamne, trying to play through these side lanes to keep it in check. You can see Ruby's just doing a... Ooh, hang on.
Well, there's the flash away. Patrik fires the Chain of Corruption. Will not work. Odo's already channeled. Call of the Forge God, and Mersa rolls to run for his life. Flashes underneath the tower. Jackspektra using Spinning Axe off the Spinning Axe, backed up by a Glacial Prison. He gets another, the 6th of the game. game. Xerxe forced to flash away to safety. The shockwave is gigantic from Ruby, trying to set up more. Poke doesn't matter if you cannot stand your ground. And Heretics find 2 kills, and they get some damage on this tower. But take a look at Vetheo. Not done yet. Accelerated shock blast, finding their targets. Kenny, weave another shot onto Ruby. I think there's too many minions in the way, and Ruby's backed out.
Yeah, Jackspektra just going to try and crash this wave, but they are going to back away. Still, the team fight win is there for Heretics, where they end up picking up a huge amount in that fight. 7 kills now for Jackspektra as well. He's going to be, I mean, that's another item essentially for him when he comes back onto the field.
I mean, I'm going to have to ask, we'll need to look at this a little bit later, but I think a 5,000 gold lead by around 18 minutes might be one of the largest individual, like, lane gold advantage we've seen. I kind of compare it to like Hans Sommer's strength from earlier. But again, just a great reply here from Heretics.
But here's the thing, right? Imagine Patrik was actually able to get some of these like long-range shots off with the arrow. You got Vetheo set up here. That's how this composition wants to work, with Odo kind of setting up the backline of Heretics for the rest of XL to follow through. But Vetheo's not a position. Patrik's the one that's overextended there as well. And I was about to say, you know, Heretics have been playing this really well, but Targamas, hero shield there onto the backline, but still Jackspektra just able to clip onto Patrik as he walks out a little bit too far forward.
Well, the pressure on Targamas is huge because that shield does not last long enough. Stand aside, finds 2, buying some time. Xerxe is able to at least get away for now, but Targamas left inside of the jungle. Kill another one secured to Jackspektra. So many of them donated. 8 kills for Heretics. All 8 of them on Draven. It doesn't really get much better than that.
No, and I mean, I think this is showing a very different style for Heretics, because when we looked at it, it's actually been the gold that Jackspektra has been massively behind him, like 1.8k when we look at the 14-minute mark, but we're going again.
Look at that, Jankos has found Vetheo. Prison into Shockwave, and Mersa's able to fly to safety. While that's going on, thumbs up in the chat as Ebby's going to push Odoamne back. Not certain if we're going to get a replay of this. Just before we do, though, I want to bring up the percentage scenarios that will happen. If Heretics win this game, they lock top 8, but so do G2, BDS, and Mad Lions. All 3 of those teams waiting in the wings, waiting to secure themselves the group stage. It's being led by Jackspektra. It's a 7,000 gold lead, and there may be 1, 2, 3, 4 teams locking in groups after this result.
I mean, we're going for Baron here, Quickshot. They definitely want to make sure that they are securing this one. Dragon is up, but when you can take the big purple worm just after the 20-minute mark, you might as well.
Well, Vetheo can shoot some fish in a barrel. Teleport's available to him. Has been channeled. He has arrived. 4,000 HP. Ebby's buying as much time as he can. Mersa's no quickness. It's too late. It's too late. It's too little. It's too late. But what more can Exile do? The searing charge knocks up a few as Jackspektra's locked inside the pit. But the stun is huge. Ebby wails away on Vetheo. He's forced to run for his life. Ruby's 1 second for the shockwave. Pulls Odo back. And all of a sudden, Heretics are wrecking Exile. Goodbye, Patrik. 2 more kills to Jackspektra. 11 of the team's 13. They have Baron. They have Dragon. They have 10,000 gold lead.
And this is just a comp for Excel that when you fall behind, it only gets more and more painful. And you're seeing it here. Ebby, an absolute hero, pulling 3 members of Excel away. You just about get the finish onto the Baron with the Jankos messing up the smite a little bit, but Jackspektra gets the kite back into the pit with a good flash. Now you've got that front to back setup for Heretics as well, where again, Patrik, super short range, can't get onto any of the big threats in the back line, whereas Ebby was getting into great position. Ruby flashing forward to make sure they can follow this one through. And between the speed ups coming through from Ruby as well, just with the command dissonance, it's so easy for them to chase members down.
The troubles continue here for XL Esports. Managing to make back-to-back playoffs last year, now trying to dig themselves out of a gigantic hole. Patrik and Vetheo should be able to pick up this kill here. Finally secure. It's Vetheo that does so, but at what cost? At what cost? Inhibitor turrets are falling, and I don't know how you deal with an 11-2-0 Draven that is protected by a Sejuani and Orianna as well as a Rakan, because Heretics have had the game plan, they've had the lead, and they've been able to outplay XL literally from the first minute of gameplay.
In my professional opinion.
Oh yes, where are we going with this?
I just don't know what you're supposed to do. Nothing works here. Your engages don't work. You don't have enough poke. You don't have enough wave clear. And now with the Baron minions there as well, like they're just desperately trying to get whatever they can on the opposite side of the map.
They are. Team Heretics are pushing into the base now. 22.5 minutes. Baron empowered minions still on their side. Around a quarter of that Baron time is still available. And for the XL Esports fans watching at home and in the studio, if this game is a loss as we are anticipating, the amount of scenarios where they lock will drop to 1%. But crucially, if they find themselves in a potential tie for 8th place, tiebreaker games will happen, regardless of a head-to-head. If two teams are tied at, hypothetically say 1 and 8, if that is the decider for 8, they will play that game. Right now, multiple people knocked up. How did that happen? All of a sudden, XL have found the kill into Jackspektra, but there's not much more in the tank. Odo is dropped low, Xerxe and Targamas run for their lives. The wombo worked for 1 onto Jackspektra. They found a second onto Mersa. The tower finally falls, and Abby's looking to chase down Xerxe and Targamas. 2 members of XL running for their lives. The inhibitor will be the focus. A last-ditch effort. They get a few kills, but not much more.
But they might get a couple of towers here. They will get the inhibitor at least on the way out, but XL will hold on to a little bit more. Ebby going to jump away as well, but I mean, this is where you can kind of see Heretics once more just abusing the fact that they're able to have so much more gold. The 4-item, 11-kill Draven goes down, and they still struggle to win out this team fight. And look, it's a great engage. Jackspektra does take that little bit too far forward of a step. Odo immediately jumps onto him. They want to make sure they can punish him. But with Ebby only just then TP'd in, keep your eyes on him here. Immediately, almost a triple stun, with Xerxe just about managing to escape away. Again, putting threat onto the back line, and you just don't have enough in the tank. The Varus can't deal damage. Vetheo doesn't have enough consistent damage realistically to get through the front line of Heretics yet. He needs to finish off that last Whisper fully, but it's just nowhere near close enough.
And you can see how that comp could have functioned had they not been 10,000 gold down at 20 minutes, right? If they were able to use that Jayce and Varus, then follow it up with the Odoamne, Ornn, as well as Elise combinations, the tools are there. The on-hit Varus hasn't had a chance to do anything. 0, 6, and 7, down nearly 100 CS versus the 11-3 Draven. I think, importantly, Jackspektra and Mersa, they played the 2v2 well. They were backed up by Jankos, multiple ganks and tower dives. And I think that, level 2, level 3 tower dive, that really set the tone for the entire game. And Heretics on the cusp of locking group stage in their first season here in the LEC, but along with BDS, Madlines, and G2. So a number of teams looking ahead to those best of 3s if Heretics close this out. And right now, Heavy's on the tower. Before the Forge Guard comes out, knocks up a couple members as Jankos backs away. He's thrown out the prison himself. Mersa will jump away to safety. Odo is dropped once again, just standing in front, and Jackspektra firing away. Maybe he's trying to usher these minions forward. Super's in the middle lane, Super's in the bottom lane. Inhibitor taking top lane. Dagda, this is a League of Legends by the numbers.
I mean, it's League of Legends by unfair numbers as well. They're winning 4 versus 5s. Ebby's just killing your Nexus turrets. Heretics want to end this now, and they are just swarming into the base of XL.
And Jackspektra continues to stack up those passives. 12 and 3, 4 items into the 2 items of Patrik. So you'll have 3 items of Vetheo. The Nexus turret has fallen. Shock Blast doing some work, but simply not enough. Shockwave is still available for Ruby as the final Nexus turret falls. Focusing onto the Nexus. Repelling up from Xerxe, dropping down. Evie gets a 2-man stun and pops Patrik. There's not enough damage to follow. And with XL being eliminated in their base, Team Heretics advance to groups.
A lot of fans in the LEC going to be happy to see Heretics pick up this win. If you're a G2 fan as well, going to be delighted to know that they have been locked. But that was a very well-controlled game from Heretics, which I think a lot of fans of Heretics needed to see out of them.
BDS, G2 Esports, Mad Lions, and Team Heretics are all now locked into the group stage. The thing is, every single game is still relevant and important because there are 4 pools of seeding. 2 teams in pool 1, 2 teams in pool 2, 2 and 3, 2 and 4. And those first 2 seeds are crucial. You are the leaders of your group. You get to pick your opponents from pool 3, pool 4. So every single match for seeding is still relevant as we play out the rest of the Super Week.
And especially when you still look at teams like Fnatic, Koi, Astralis now having just beat SK, and then unfortunately XL still trying to fight their way into that. I mean, XL, not exactly the best of showings to start what is the last week that you have an opportunity to actually make it.
And in comparison to many other teams, we're seeing Heretics getting better at the game. We're seeing Astralis picking up their 2nd win. The old man Jankos denying me the high 5. Great job there, Heretics. as the players have come past the caster desk. I think crucially though, the point I want to get to is that we are seeing several of these newer teams, these younger squads stepping up. Even though SK lost that game earlier today, the early was still impressive. So we are running out of time to develop. Dagda, I'll come to you in a second. Player of the game nominees at LEC, Jankos, Jackspektra, and Mersa. For Heretics, a pretty clean, pretty dominant, pretty predictable gameplay. Once they got that lead, they used their tools well.
Yeah, and I think that's what Heretics are very good at using a lead. The biggest problem that they've had is trying to find those leads, right? But I think the interesting one is we haven't seen it through bot side.
Yeah.
Like Jackspektra, when you look at the 20-minute mark, 1.8k go behind on average. And oftentimes we're relying on Ruby in these late game fights to bring it up. This was a very different pace. They immediately locked the Draven blind. They know that they want to try and play around this bot side, and they do a fantastic job of doing it. So big shout out to Jackspektra, Mersa, and Jankos, making sure they could get that lead in the bot side.
Hugely impressive. And I think for Jackspektra as well, one of the players was a lot of hype. One of the players that people were expecting to see. A game like that, you kind of have to respect. I think there was blind Draven as well, right? Worked out fantastically well. So we're going to head on stage where Trouble standing by with Mersa.
Thank you very much, Quickshot and Mersa, Kalosirtes. Thank you so much for joining me. First victory, starting the third week really strong. How was the game for you?
I mean, this game felt pretty easy to play. This week, like, we had Draven ready from scrims, and Jackspektra, I think, he used to be a one-trick Draven.
He's an all-right Draven, right? Yeah,
yeah, I would say so. And yeah, I think we executed our plan pretty well and played well around like Elise early game. Because as long as we avoid like her early game like invades or ganks, I think we scale way better. So I think, yeah, it was a clean game.
Talking about avoiding Elise in the early game plays production, can we have that replay on the screen for you to break down for me? Because of course, playing Draven in lane, you are forced to play a little bit more aggressive, trying to cash in these early kills. So can you break this one down for me? What was the communication like?
Yeah, so we had like very good wards early game from our mid laner and bot lane. And we tracked Elise pretty well. And yeah, I mean, this invade, we knew that she was pathing back to top and Sejuani was pathing to us. So it was pretty easy. We just had to be like calm, like patient, and juggle like the tower aggro. So basically, me and Jack traded 2v2 first. And then I just took the aggro because I can E out, and it was pretty easy.
That's a fantastic breakdown. Thank you so much. Now, moving back to you, of course, transitioning from Misfits to Heretics, new organization, joining. How has the transition been for you?
I mean, even last year in Misfits, people didn't have high expectations of me or of my team. And I think we did pretty well. Like, we had top 4 both splits, I think, and made playoffs twice. And the same for Heretics. I think even though we got Jankos, people didn't really believe in the other players that much. And I'm happy that we are like showing how strong we can be. So it's going pretty well.
Proving them wrong. That's really nice to see. And of course, I have to ask a question because people have been spamming me on Twitter. I have named this segment Housekeeping with Heretics. Are you guys helping Jankos at all with house chores?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Last time, actually, Evie and Jankos had a bet on who will do the like dishes. And they faced each other on Champions Queue, and Evie beat him, so Jankos had to do them. But yeah, everyone is trying.
So everyone is trying, but in the end, it's always Jankos that does it one way or the other. Thank you so much, Mersa.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And Jankos is actually going to be joining the caster desk for the next game. And we'll see you right after the break. Ευχαριστώ, Mersa.
Ευχαριστώ.